We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone.
There she is, NASA's Voyager 1, launched in 1977.
But that's just very small potatoes compared to what the Earth is involved with and knows about.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Hello, greetings, and good day, and welcome to this episode of Space, the Final Frontier. This is your Kaspacer, Professor June Cahigal. Now, Space, the Final Frontier is a series of online lectures that is intended to inspire our students to love the sciences, especially astronomy. Now, for this month of April, we celebrate Global Astronomy Month 2021. And as part of our celebration, this is a special episode because we have a special special guest speaker for this episode. Now, our guest speaker is my former student, and also he is a science teacher from San Beda College, Alabang, and he also founded the Bedan Society of Young Astronomers, Alabang chapter. So he is no other than Emmanuel Dudes Perea. So we will be listening to him, and he will be discussing NASA's spin-off Everyday Products from NASA. Now, if we have any questions or comments about the lecture for this episode, please feel free to type in your questions, your comments, or your reactions in the comment section below. Wag po kayong mahiya, and we would be happy, we would be glad to answer all your questions, your reactions, or your comments. So, tara na, and let us go where no man has gone before.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our stream. So before we start, maybe call on Miss Angeline Kila, my co-host, to open this webinar with an opening prayer.
Let us always remember that we are in the most holy presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Almighty and loving Father, creator of heaven and earth, we praise you and adore you. You are the King of Kings. We humbly ask for forgiveness for our sins. Have mercy on us, O Lord. We gathered here today for our webinar. Send us your Holy Spirit to be guide us and give us the wisdom that we understand every topic that we're going through. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Saint Bede, pray for us. Saint Benedict, pray for us. Our Lady of Montserrat, pray for us. That in all things, God may be glorified. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Hello, astronomers! Welcome to Space, the Final Frontier. I am Angeline Kilang, ang makuliit na batch representative ng Bedan Society of Young Astronomers.
And I am Jessica Scolan, ang G, to see the world with you. Today is a special episode. Yes, that is right. Today we have a special guest in celebration of Global Astronomy Month 2021. Our speaker is a science teacher in San Beda College, Alabang. He is also the founder of the Bedan Society of Young Astronomers, Alabang chapter. And lastly, he was a former student of Sir June Cahigal. Everyone, let us welcome Sir Emmanuel Perea.
Of a difficulty right now with my microphone setup, but I think I'm there already now. So thank you very much for introducing me. And once more, good evening to everybody here right now in the live stream. I'm glad that everybody is all here. Hope you're feeling fine, well, and comfortable at the moment. And right now, we are going to begin our discussion, of course, as of course introduced to us by the host regarding our topic for today. So I hope that the people that are watching right now are feeling comfortable at the moment, and all are really ready right now to learn a little bit more about these things that we use every day. Yun nga, supposedly we use and was used, by the way, in space tech. Okay, so we'll find out a little bit more on that one as we go along with tonight's discussion. So I do hope that everybody is ready, prepared, and ready for liftoff. Now, I do have a simple question, and I do want a little bit of interaction. Right now, I will be currently reading some of your comments as we go along with this session. So sige yan, papanorin ko yung mga comments niyo. So as we go along, you can ask questions. Of course, I'm pretty sure we will be able to entertain them as we go in this discussion right now. Give me a second as I set it up. Right. I guess I can see it from here now. Okay, let's begin. Of course, I do have a few questions before we have our beginning of our topic. And that is, of course, seeing how everyday stuff really affects us. And this is something that, well, we don't ask to ourselves for the most part, but it's very important as well to ask this from time to time. And that question might be this. Can you imagine, like right now, those viewers at home, can you imagine your life living without these certain things? Now, some of them may range from very trivial to something very, very important, but I would like to see your sentiments with regards to these things. So, more importantly, these items that you can see right now, and especially more than now, ngayong time of pandemic, probably some of you might be taking into comfort with the technologies and the innovations that have taken place that gave rise to these products that you can see here. Now, sa mga mahilig ano dyan, mag-Shopee siguro, kaya mag-Lazada. Dun yung mga mahilig mag-online shopping. Those people who like to do online shopping, now, you probably have a lot of good use for tracking stuff, diba? While you are probably waiting for your items to arrive. So yun nga, right now in the chat, do you find GPS or the GPS systems that you see right now in our current system useful for you? Can you imagine life without these things? So itong pag-track natin ng mga orders na kinukuha natin online. Can you live without those things? Now, I'm not sure if you can live without them or not. Pero yun nga, you might be able to share your sentiments in the comments right now. So you can go along and answer as we go. Binabasa ko rin kasi, by the way, yung ating chat over there. And of course, next one, especially for our safety and for the safety of the general population, we usually take use of these infrared thermometers right now, ensuring that we will have minimal physical contact with most of our peers. And we can admit that more now than ever, we have really used these thermometers in our regular new normal setup right now. So I'm guessing most of us cannot imagine a world where in order to get a temperature check, you have to be a little bit more physical with the person, diba? Well, again, there are many different ways for us to reliably measure temperature, but for the most part, we know that, of course, it's very important for us to have these kinds of. Yes? Okay. So we have a little bit of difficulties there, but we should be fine now. Continuing, we have these thermometers we can thank for. Of course, we can imagine life without it, but more than now than not ever, because of course of the situation we are currently in, we can't imagine using other means of checking temperature besides, of course, using these kinds of tools. And of course, right now, if you're probably watching this video, watching this live stream on a more comfortable situation, siguro probably you are, I don't know, sitting down, maybe lying on your back, maybe behind something like as comfortable as a couch, maybe a bed. Diba? The comfiness of these beds, these couches that offer us a little bit of comfort when we want to do the leisurely stuff that we do inside our houses. Most definitely, I don't know about those people who have experiences like amazing couches such as like this one. These are like memory foam couches. Now imagine, especially those who have used memory foam couches, memory foam cushions, memory foam beds. It's hard to come back from regular foam, right? It's hard to come back to those foams when you have experienced these types of foams because these are very comfortable. And again, part of my question again, can you imagine life without that? Mm-hmm. And more importantly, this one, the last one, probably may not be the major source of electricity for the majority of the country, but yet it's still a very reliable energy source, which is, of course, solar energy. Now imagine if this solar energy didn't really, in a manner of speaking, develop further here in this country. With what little it can provide with in the entirety of this country, do you think you can imagine living without these types of innovations? Now, these are just examples. I just took them out of the blue, and I wanted to see how you would react to these kinds of images. So as I wait for anybody here to respond to that question, let me talk about how these things are being put here in our world today. And that is because of no other than, of course, the ingenuity of humans and the innovation that we have been doing for the past few thousand years. Now, innovation is a very large key in unlocking these kinds of things. These technologies, these finer things in life, as I like to call them, they are the result of different types of humans, different people, different individuals from different timelines collaborating with each other in order to make life better. That is what innovation boils down into. Innovation, like I mentioned here, is a hallmark trait of humans. When you hear human, you have to think that humans are innovative. And innovation is not really just the basics of making something that is useful. Well, that is innovation for a shorter sense, but it's also, in a manner of speaking, making stuff that is already useful equally useful, maybe a little bit more useful in other different aspects of life. When man discovered fire, when the first time that man has discovered fire, that innovation of finding a technology like fire and applying it, say, for warmth, they probably extended a little bit more on how to apply fire in different aspects. Probably already know that fire has been used to cook stuff before. You probably already also identified that fire has been used to ward off different types of predators, protect the people that matter most. And of course, that innovation, and that is another side of innovation. Not just making something useful, but making something that is already useful in another aspect. And there are many different things that we can think about when we talk about these kinds of innovations. The type of innovations that stem from looking at one thing and saying, pwede kong gamitin to sa iba pang bagay. Ganon. There's a lot of those innovations that are usually just, glanced by, never looked at again. And of course, what more underrated field of innovation we know of than also in the field of space technology. The different types of space technology that was offered to us ever since the dawn of the space age. And the space age has offered us a lot. Ang dami nilang inoffer the different types of technologies. You've already seen a lot of them from the previous episodes of this live stream. You probably learned a lot of them from, of course, watching some YouTube videos that you probably are interested with. And maybe your science teachers might be able to shed some light a little bit on the different types of technologies that are used in the space race. Now, for what it's worth, some of you might be thinking that, well, Sir Eman, space tech is very specialized, or as I like to use the word, niche. Very niche ang ating space tech. It's only used for space for space purposes, for either aeronautics or maybe for understanding the nature of the cosmos and all of that. I don't think it's something that you could use as an example of innovation in the sense of finding something useful in an already useful item. But believe it or not, with enough creative thinking, and this has happened indeed, with enough in creative thinking, humans have indeed found different types of uses. Again, different individuals, different companies, different groups of people have come together to think tank, to brainstorm a lot of these innovations that have already taken place, mind you, for something useful, and imagining it into a more useful scenario, but this time in a more practical sense. Something that you and me can use. I'm no rocket scientist. I'm no astrophysicist. I could consider myself one of the regular people who use these types of technologies. And you as well, watching at home, might be, are also these kinds of people who benefit from the different types of technologies offered to us. And that is our topic for today. Our topic that we will be discussing for tonight will be the different everyday products. I'm going to be more specific here, that were made possible due to the technologies provided to us by NASA. Now, you'll see an underlying word that I'll be showing here called spin-offs. We'll get to that in a few minutes. So, these everyday products will range from things that we usually use by ourselves to things that we use as a society. These different objects, these different products, these different innovations stem from the different different projects, the different missions that NASA has once launched, and probably is continuing to launch up until this day. Now, let's go to the heading na nilagay ko dito sa baba. I use the word spin-off, right? By the way, if you have any questions at the moment, if may mga questions kayo with regards to the initial part of the topic, feel free to type in the chat. I am currently, again, reading the chat, so hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions as we go along. Hey, so on the idea of everyday products being useful that were originated from NASA or from stuff that NASA has created, we have to consider a few things. Number one, of course, the commercial products that are available to us doesn't necessarily have to arise from the space program that is NASA. Sometimes they arise from different types of innovations. But I will be clear, the things that we are going to be talking about today are the commercial products that are here right now, that exist due to the fact that space technology was expanded upon by different individuals and different companies. Okay? So, etong mga commercial products na to, we'd like to call them as spin-off technologies. Now, right now, what's the first thing that comes into your mind when you think of the word spin-off? Sige nga. Try to see right now kung ano yung sagutin dito sa chat. Pag narinig nyo ang spin-off, right now in pop culture, sige nga, I'll double check in the chat kung meron makapagsabi dito. Meron ba kayo makapag-share ngayon? Ano ba ang sa tingin yung unang papasok sa isip niyo pag narinig yung spin-off? Siguro, you're probably copy that, no worries. I'll be able to wait. Kung may delay man, I'm understanding naman na may delay tayo at the moment. So, it's no worries. You can just type in the chat. Mababasa ko naman yan as we go. Pero I'm gonna probably predict something. You're probably thinking, movies, TV shows. Yung mga fans siguro ng mga malalaking series dyan. You probably heard of spin-off series, diba? When you think of the word spin-off, the first thing that comes into your mind is probably a revised series, TV show, movie that arose from probably a major, I don't know, probably pop culture icon. Let's say for Star Wars. If you're a fan of Star Wars, you know that Star Wars have a lot of spin-offs, mostly in the form of television series. Yun, you can consider them as spin-offs. So, ayun, nakita ko yung sagot dito ni Kobe. Spin-off daw is like a similar to parody. So, yeah, kind of like that, diba? Pero for the sake of our discussion, when we talk about spin-offs, again, this is mostly from the definition that we got from Oxford Languages. Spin-off is a byproduct or an incidental result of a larger project. When you have something, a specific item or a specific job or a specific routine, and you manage to create a byproduct or an incidental result, something that arose from that larger project, that is what you call a spin-off. Of course, in different types of fields in of humanities, diba? There's many different types of ways to define that. Of course, in pop culture, you probably know spin-off as making a smaller, digestible series from a larger fandom, siguro. Yun nga yun. Or yun nga, as you can see in the other definitions here for, I believe this is business. Okay? The business definition, that one. But we're not going to focus on that one. We're going to focus on how we define these spin-offs. Now, I'll be rather calling them by another name, which is, of course, NASA spin-offs. So, NASA spin-off technology, to be more specific, is developed more by other companies and other individuals. NASA has a hand lang on funding or helping out with a lot of these research. Okay? So, ibig sabihin nun, these spin-offs, these technologies are not really the result of NASA alone working on this one. There are many different types of individuals, many different types of companies that provide different types of resources that they want to improve upon a certain project of NASA. So, NASA, in this case, provides a lot of help, usually in the form of research and development. The research and development part of NASA are giving a lot of different data from their different departments, okay? Whether it's from the JPL or maybe from their telescopes or whatever else sector of NASA that we're talking about. That is what they provide. They provide these types of access to different information that these companies and individuals might find useful. That is the point of this spin-off technology. The point is that this is a collaborative effort, okay? So when I talk about NASA spin-off technology, bear in mind that there are individuals and there are people that are involved in making this. It's not just NASA, okay? Kind of gives you a little bit of hope. This is a collaborative effort between humans, and it's nice. It's a nice thing to see. It's a nice thing to witness. So, as we go along, we should be also wary about the different types of technologies that we will be encountering right now. So, as we speak kasi, at the moment, as far as the last time I checked this one, there are over 2,000 different identified NASA spin-offs. And there are different types of technologies that you might not know is already in your home. You look around lang, you might be using something that was once used for space technology, or for space flight, or for space travel, for that matter. And again, these types of technology can range from different uses. Hindi lang siya na nandito sa bahay natin. Some of these uses can come from industry, yung mga pinagtatrabahuan ng mga tao, transportation, how we move about from one place to another, agriculture, those big stuff, yung industry, transportation, and agriculture, those are very large stuff, to the more specific and more personal aspects of life. Medicine, computer technology, and of course, recreational stuff. The stuff that we enjoy every day. And balikan natin yung 4 items na pinakita ko doon. Can you guess of the 4 items? Again, I'll go to that one. Of the 4 items again, which one do you think? Okay, I'll be waiting siguro for a few seconds siguro. Which one do you think here are the results of Space Tech? Give your best guess right now. I'll be reading later in the chat. Ano sa tingin niyo dito? Best guess niyo, which one of these 4 items are, well, it came from Space Tech siguro. The GPS system ba? Did the GPS system come from Space Tech? Did this thermometer, this infrared thermometer, arise from Space Tech? This lovely couch, which happens to be made out of memory foam. Is this something from NASA? Technology of NASA, and more importantly, our solar panels really something that arose from NASA. Sige, I want to see kung ano yung mga guesses niyo. So right now, GC here saying thermometer. Okay? We'll take a look later kung anong mga technologies na meron tayo dito. Can you excuse me one moment? Be right back. Hey, I think I'm ready now. Okay, there we go. Am I back? There we go. Double checking. So, let us begin with the different types of examples of technologies that we found useful in daily life that originated from the research of NASA. Of course, let's start first with something that's more useful for us as a society. Let's start with the more specific ones that relate to most of us. So let's start with industry and public safety. Now, when we talk about the industry and public safety, I'm looking right now, by the way, in the chat. So some of you are saying it. All of you are giving your guesses na. And probably, ayan na. Probably most of you are seeing a pattern already dun sa 4 na binigay kong items. Okay, now, when we talk about the industry and the public safety that we usually apply the technology, the space technology that we're dealing with, we usually like to see stuff that might be useful in other aspects. So, reminder to everybody watching right now that I will not be talking much about how these technologies are useful for us to understand space. No, that's not the point of these spin-offs. The point of these spin-offs is that they are useful other than space tech. Okay? Anything that does not have to do with space or anything that has nothing to do with astronomy, di tayo papasok. So let's start with the more useful ones, like this one. If you haven't seen one, I highly suggest you go to YouTube right now and go and watch a space, a rocket takeoff. Not a space flight, sorry, a rocket taking off. Okay? So, when a rocket launches, you can probably see, ito na siguro na sa picture na nakikita nyo ngayon, you can probably see this. And a lot of different rockets have these types of structures supporting them. And these things are called kasi gantries. Okay? Gantry. Okay? So, a gantry is basically a support system for rockets so that they'll be able to stable as they are being as the explosion happens and that they don't really violently shake. So these gantries are responsible for maintaining the stability of the rocket before it launches. Now, there's a problem with that one, and of course, the gantries have to be very, very stable. And of course, you can't just put rigid metals securing the gantry because that would mean that the gantry would shake along with the rocket. So to solve that problem, NASA and a few other companies have developed these things called shock absorbers. These shock absorbers are similar to the shock absorbers you probably see in certain suspensions, but a little bit more complex on that one, suspensions in vehicles. But this one's a little bit more complex because this allows the entire rocket to maintain its stability while it's preparing for liftoff, and at the same time, when they do detach, these gantries detach from the rockets, they will maintain their shape and of course will not topple down. These shock absorbers are very useful and have been useful for countless of different rocket flights. Ang dami niyang mga uses on that one. Now, with regards to how we used it in industry, we can now take a look at its application. We know that the gantries were very resistant to vibrations. You know what else vibrates in this earth that we live in? You probably have experienced that already. Things that vibrate in this earth as well. Can you guess? Of course, you can see already in the picture here, earthquakes. Earthquakes are a large problem in terms of how to control the vibrations because the simple answer is you can't. You can't control the vibrations of the Earth. That's something that humans have not been able to do for the limited amount of technology that we have. However, that doesn't mean it, just because it doesn't mean that we cannot control the vibrations of the Earth, doesn't mean that we cannot control the vibrations of the buildings that we have here. So that is why this type of technology that was used, shock absorbers, one of the strongest ones, might I add, was modified a little bit. It was modified into this form, as you can see right now in this picture. And these are the same types of shock absorbers that you can see right now fitted in buildings that are usually built on earthquake-prone areas, such as, I believe, Japan is making good use of this one. I believe certain parts of coastal America are using this one, such as New York and San Francisco. Most I believe major cities that are near coasts, near fault lines, also use these types of shock absorbers. And this is an example of seeing something that is applied to space tech, but applying it something besides space tech. I hope you're following right now, viewers right now. I hope you're following as we go along with the topic. Ganito ang ibig ko sabihin with NASA spin-offs. Things that we use in other aspects of life. So let's take a look at another thing. So, of course, another big problem siguro would be, of course, fires. Okay? And of course, to ensure that the people that we are supposed to, that matter to us are always protected, we need to ensure that the people that have that job description, protecting others from fires, are also well protected. As the years went by, different types of technologies were applied to firefighting. And of course, we have arrived with different things such as, let's say, fire extinguishers and the like. But more importantly, we have to ensure that the lives of these firemen, the firemen and women that are currently battling the fires, are also, well, to a manner of speaking, hello? Am I still connected? Ay, kasi my Discord is stopped working. So, bigyan na lang ako ng signal ko. Anyway, sige, let me continue na lang siguro. I'm right now, sorry, my Discord is frozen. So I'll just continue. Hopefully you can still hear me. So we protect these firemen by, of course, applying something that we use to protect another group of people. And I'm pretty sure you can probably guess which group of people these are. These groups of people, you already know, are astronauts. And of course, to protect these astronauts, NASA has already worked different types of life support systems, from the air canisters that they use to ensure that the astronauts have air supply, as always, to their suits that are very, very heat resistant. So, to put into perspective, the different types of modern firefighting equipment that we use, using pressurized air tanks to ensure that the firefighters don't inhale a lot of smoke. And of course, the fire-resistant clothing that they have, okay? So, we have fire-resistant clothing, the firefighters, rather, have fire-resistant clothing that was originated again from the technology that was applied by NASA for their astronaut program. And of course, these suits and these things are small things for the astronauts, just for them to, large things, rather, for astronauts so that they'll be able to survive in space. And of course, as large as well for the firefighters, ensuring that they'll be able to survive whatever problem that they face. And in addition to that, something siguro that you might be interested, you can probably take a look at the link below. Yan. There's a CNN article with regards to 2017 technology about using a technology that was once used for pilots in NASA. They had a type of mask or a type of infrared technology that allowed them to view through fog. And what's similar to fog? Of course, smoke. So by that logic, you can use that same technology so that firemen can easily see through smoke. And yes, that is a technology that has been made already. You can probably take a look right now if you're very fascinated right now dito sa technology na to. It's very cool. It's a very nifty type of technology. And of course, that's just one of the few things in industry and public safety. And of course, more importantly, for public safety, in countries that this is more likely applied to, GPS, I'm not going to mention much about GPS because you already know that satellite technology, which of course gave rise to the global positioning system, GPS, you already know that this is already space tech. Alam niyo na siguro dapat to. GPS is because of space tech. gumagana yung GPS niyo. So yung mga nagsabi ng GPS kanina sa chat na yun isang space tech, isang example of space tech na ginagamit natin ngayon, that is a good example. You're correct. So GPS correction software as well, because back then GPS was reliable, but not too really much because they had a few couple of meters na margin of error. Today, the different types of correction software that NASA has provided to many different companies have a little bit of margin of error na lang. I believe a few centimeters na lang. And this is useful for specifically 911 callers and respondents. Okay, so that the 911 callers and respondents are able, the respondents may be able to pinpoint exactly where is the 911 distress signal coming from. And again, it's very useful in a society that relies a lot on navigation. And that's just industry and public safety. We haven't even reached some of the other parts here. So now let's proceed to the next part of our uses, which is, of course, transportation. Would you believe me if I told you that, of course, when you use a vehicle, more likely vehicles that use this type of wheels, you're probably using space tech already. A little bit of trivia for you, specifically for transportation. Durable tires are the result of a certain type of research, a certain type of creation of a certain material that was once used for spaceflight. To be more specific, these durable tires were made by a company called Goodyear. You probably have heard of them already. That was specifically made as in the parachuting system of a soft landing spacecraft, more specifically the Viking lander of Mars. And again, this type of material was very tough. It was used in that mission, and the company that made that material thought to themselves probably, maybe I can apply a little bit of this durable object. Okay. I do hope you can still hear me though. Okay, sige, thank you very much. Yeah, so apologies for cutting out. So let me go back sa aking sinasabi over here. So these wheels are made out of the same material that is seen from these soft landing spacecraft na tinutukoy natin. Now, these are durable. I believe it is stronger than steel. And that is the reason why these things can last for about tens of thousands of miles for its lifetime. It's a very durable wheel, something that you don't have to replace every now and then. And again, all thanks to a type of technology found in spacecraft. Diba? Something that is used to smash something softly on the surface of a planet can be used to make sure that the wheels of a car are durable. It's kind of a weird game of 6 degrees of separation. And can you agree there? So again, that's not just, of course, for transportation, but of course, to quickly end transportation over here, we already have a good use of transportation with regards to the GPS correction software that I have mentioned before, and the GPS system in general. Okay? So the GPS systems that you can see here in general are very useful for us to track a lot of different things. From the things that we buy, from our destination, kung saan naman tayo pupunta, to many different aspects of transportation. These things enable us to keep track of different types of commodities just to ensure that order is there. And that's something that is sometimes taken for granted. So I do hope you appreciate the amazing wonders that GPS has allowed us to have. Allowed us to track commodities as they go. Diba? It's very underrated. Something that usually don't realize. Now, proceeding from there, we have another large thing, which is, of course, the agricultural and environmental sectors. Now, there are a lot, by the way, I'm going to tell you this right now, there are a lot of different NASA spin-offs that are regarding the agricultural and environmental sectors. I'm only going to mention 2 of them, okay, so that of course, I'm on time. And of course, for the second one, I'll be able to discuss for the next parts pa. I'll be able to discuss the other parts. So more particularly, ito siguro yung mga nagsabi ng mga solar panels ngayon. Right now, the cheap, the efficient, and the lightweight types of solar panels that you see in commercial use, these are the same types of cheap, light, and energy efficient solar panels that NASA has been able to collaborate with different types of companies in order for them to power more specifically in their realm. Kasi NASA, if you can remember, is so they still have these remotely piloted aircraft. However, battery life isn't really that reliable. So for long term, remotely piloted aircraft, they use very, very cheap, very, very light, and very, very energy efficient, up to 50% more energy efficient and more, what do you call this? Produces more energy output siya. They develop alongside with multiple companies, of course, this type of solar panel, which is now, what's the logic here? Cheaper and lighter and more efficient. It's probably good for public consumption. There's no backfire in that. So, of course, something that is used for NASA's game is also can be used pala rather for, well, commercial game. You can probably see these types of better solar cells in the market right now. Of course, still, solar panels are really a staple energy source for most households. Or, of course, in our situation right now, it's not really that the most feasible thing. But you have to agree that because of these types of innovations making not only lighter and more energy output, but of course cheaper. Yun ang kailangan natin tandaan dito. They are cheaper. Mas mura sila. Okay? So again, that's a good environmental win. That's a good way for us to see na it's possible, and at the same time it can be released for the public. And of course, following up with that one is probably something that affects not just in the environmental but also in the agricultural sector. The big problem about water. Now, water distribution and purification is another topic in of itself. It deserves a larger topic. But we owe a lot of the different types of technologies that that was developed for water purification due to the missions that NASA has provided different technologies with. Itong picture na nakikita nyo are one of the different types of water purification systems that is seen by NASA. Now, probably one thing that you might be asking is, what's the purpose of water purification for NASA? Well, the quick answer to that one is this. Well, you're in space and you probably don't have a river readily available for you. When you go up in space, there's no river, there's no rain in space, diba? So that means you're gonna have to spend your water properly. So the big problem right now here is, how do you do that? And of course, NASA has provided with us a lot of different types of technologies, more particularly recycling the water that is on board whatever spacecraft there is. Right? So the spacecraft have different types of water purification systems that allow them to recycle the water that they use. Yes, and you probably see kung saan na ito papupunta, viewers, right now. Yes, even the water that comes out of them, na re-recycle nila yon. Okay? And yes, to that extreme efficiency. And because of that, these types of technologies have allowed us to think that these things can be used here on Earth, where water, as much as it's covering the entire Earth, is still a problem. Malaking problema pa rin dito ang clean, drinkable water, specifically for most third world countries and of course countries that have been hit by certain types of calamities. So because of this type of technology, it has enabled us to produce different types of innovations. You probably have seen a lot of them. You can probably share some of your known innovations right now in the chat with regards to water technology, water purification technology that allowed us to make sure that many different people have access to clean, fresh, drinkable water. Again, thanks to a thing that they thought of in NASA for the astronauts. You see how these technologies are being used as we go along? So I do hope you're kind of getting appreciation right now for that part. So now, we'll go a little bit more specific tayo ngayon. From more general use in society, let's go a little bit smaller now with our sample size. Let's go a little bit more on the specifics. Let's talk first on the computer technology. Now, for the computer technology, I would like to say here, I forgot to include kasi this slide over here, that if you're not aware, there are many different types of software that NASA has made available already that they were using for quite a lot of time. If you want to access them, I believe NASA has a software archive for that one. You can probably check it out. I have no link at the moment for this one. I could probably follow up on that one. But for more specific use, siguro, again, still in society, but also for people who would like to learn a little bit more about structural analysis, lalo na sa mga mahilig siguro sa engineering dyan. So yun nga, structural analysis software originally designed for understanding if a spacecraft can survive takeoff and re-entry and all of that jazz. So structural analysis software made for NASA spacecraft has made available for the public for use in different types of industries. And of course, these companies that have uses for these types of structural analysis software have managed to use them from cars, the cars that we drive, so that we can ensure that these things are structurally sound, to the different things that we have for amenities, like say carnival rides. I'll give one good example here: roller coasters. Of course, roller coasters have to follow a quality test, diba? And of course, most roller coaster designs have to undergo a certain structural analysis. And of course, what better software to use than the software given by one of the more sophisticated companies, agencies pala rather, that have provided us very durable product. Diba? So these softwares that you usually see for cars and carnival rides, yung to maintain yung kanilang structural integrity or to analyze their structural integrity, all thanks again to NASA. And again, it might not be a bit more specific, but let's go more a little bit more specific by going now into the field of health and medicine. Something that we can use pala rather for everyday life siguro. Pero I'll see na lang muna kung ano yung pwede nyo pang idagdag dito. I'll provide more links for the medicine one kasi ang dami nito. There are multiple applications for medicine pagdating dito sa NASA spin-offs. Pero I'll be highlighting muna 3. More particularly, one of the more earlier ones, the thing that probably started a lot of the trend of the NASA spin-offs is this artificial blood pump. So there is a device called the VAD, or the ventricular assist device. And this allows a patient that is about to take a heart transplant to continually pump their blood while they wait. So of course, most of these technologies are believed last for like around 8 hours before you need to change it. And of course, you would think that it's probably a medical specialist or a medical expert, or maybe somebody great in the field of engineering and medical science probably was the one who created this. So I don't know how NASA really gets into this, but believe it or not, this is something that NASA really wanted to know about, a little bit more about how human physiology works, especially how it reacts in space. Because of that, there are different people who were managing to study alongside with NASA to create different types of research. Now, the people who created the ventricular assist device, they were helped by NASA into creating this product because NASA, again, like I told you, was very curious about how the human physiology reacted in space. And again, this is a byproduct of this type of research. So, ito talaga, medyo 6 degrees na talaga of separation. Kasi you might be thinking, most astronauts don't really use a VAD, a ventricular assist device. But the precepts, the concepts that are here into how the ventricular assist device works is all thanks to the research provided by NASA for the people who have created this type of device. Okay? And a little bit more on that as we go along with the specific topics on the other parts. So, on a little bit more feature-based na device na siguro ginagamit niyo. I'm not sure if this is all the case. I'm gonna ask right now in the chat, in the comments right now, have you seen somebody use this? I'll be honest, I have not seen pa yet, pero I cannot deny that this is a good type of innovation. Nakita na ba kayo na taong gumamit nito? Invisible braces. I would like to know, I'll wait na lang later in the chat. So kindly respond to this one. Have you seen people use invisible braces before? Kasi as far as I'm concerned, wala pa ata ako nakikita. But either way, these invisible braces are actually, due to the fact that they are made from a material we'll discuss later, they are kind of a NASA spin-off. Right? A space technology, a space tech material being used for this. Invisible braces that allows the function of a brace but without the metal parts na to. So the material that is being used for this invisible braces is called the transparent polycrystalline alumina, or what we call TPA. Ayun, binabasa ko ngayon, sabi ni Charnel. Mahal daw yan. Okay, sige. So, mahal daw ang invisible braces. I'm not really very well versed on the prices of invisible braces, but from what I've heard, they're pretty useful. Okay, and I think they're a bit better now than regular metal braces. But again, the material that is being used for this one, the TPA, the transparent polycrystalline alumina, is the same type of material that was once used for NASA ceramics research for protection of their antennas. Okay? So, to be more specific, the antennas that they were protecting kasi were from heat-seeking equipment. Okay? So yung antenna sila for that one to protect them, yun yung nagawa nila itong TPA. And somebody, again, with enough 6 degrees of separation, innovated on that and thought, maybe I can use this material for something else. Let me take a look right now. Okay, may mga kilala. May mga kakilala nga kayo na gumagamit itong invisible braces. So see, again, the technology of the material, for some reason, was thought by another person and thought that this could be applied to braces. And it was successfully done. Again, amazing innovation. Next, for the medicine, eto siguro sa mga nagsabi ng, sir, Eman, thermometers, definitely apply yan from SpaceTech. Yes, indeed. Infrared thermometers are based on the same type of technology. Okay, sige. It's the same type of technology that is used to detect the temperatures of certain celestial objects, but this time in a more smaller scale, because these types of thermometers measure the thermal radiation found in the eardrum. Okay? Kaya, sa taas yun. And more importantly, a type of thermometer that does not need any more physical contact. What more good use ang meron tayo ngayon yan than today? Of course, even before, they probably needed a little bit more in the infrared thermometers. But before then, more accurate thermometers require people getting a little bit up close and personal. Siguro naabutan niyo na siguro yung mga thermometers na nilalagay sa kilikili, or maybe some of you might have seen the thermometers na nilalagay sa bunganga at saka sa puwet. You probably already know those types of thermometers. And of course, infrared thermometers make it a little bit more safe and, hygienic in a manner of speaking, because you don't have to approach the person in order to get their temperature. See? Infrared thermometers, for the most part, is very, very useful. And again, thanks to SpaceTech. Something, again, that we definitely use more than now than ever, every day. Okay? And of course, let's dive deep to the last part of its applications with regards to the home and recreation. So, right now sa chat, sino ngayon na nakahiga or nakaupo sa isang memory foam cushion? Or merong pillow ngayon na may memory foam? I wish I had something that had memory foam. Pero at the moment, I don't think I have. I don't have a pillow or anything right now that has memory foam. But I've heard that it's very, very comfortable. Sige nga, pakilagay sa chat dito. Sino sa inyo, chat tuloy, sa messages dito. At sino sa inyo ang may memory foam or nakagamit na ng memory foam? I've experienced it once. It's comfortable, pero I'm very surprised sa kanyang comfort na pinadadala. So memory foam, originally called Tempur foam, is seen in pillows, couches, and beds. Diba? Let me see right now. Okay, yun na. Sabi ko, memory foam. Yes, tama. Memory foam is indeed a space technology. And ano ngayon ang technology na ano application na itong technology into space? Tanong mo siguro. So the application of this technology is this. Remember when astronauts go up into space and go back down here onto Earth, they have to experience a ton of force. Mostly in the form of yung gravitational force, yung amplified gravitational force nga, diba, for a moving object. Especially when going up. When going up, astronauts usually experience around 2 to 5 Gs of force pababa sa kanila. And imaginein mo yun kung yung nasa likod mo, kasi usually ang astronaut, when they launch, nakahiga sila. They are lying a little bit down. So imagine that amount of force. It's like somebody's pushing you down, pero matigas yung likod. Matigas yung likuran mo. Made out of something that's very hard. Or even like regular foam. That's got to hurt. So memory foam kind of fixes a little bit of its wear and tear, and at the same time, its comfortableness. It ensured that the pilots of different NASA missions were able to comfortably take off and go back down into Earth, and of course perform different aerial missions and aerial researches with regards to making sure that the pilot is comfortable and safe. It's usually a safety precaution. And now, of course, alam natin na safe siya. Double check lang ako dito. Ayun. Alam natin na safe siya, di ba? We know that it is safe. And at the same time, it's something that people probably like. People like comfort. I like comfort. You like comfort as well. So why not use this type of foam in different types of things such as pillows, couches, and beds? And yes, indeed, this memory foam craze blew up. Okay? And of course, up until this day, there are different types of innovations that are made with this memory foam of ours. Of course, let's go a little bit more. Ito ulit, yung medyo 6 degrees of separation ulit tayo. Yung parang ang layo, pero ang lapit at the same time. Believe it or not, baby milk formula, yung mga milk na pinapainom sa mga babies, they're kind of paying homage to their creation due to a certain type of research that NASA has found. So, probably yung mga alam nyo mga baby formula milk. Like, ano ba yung mga baby formula milk? Empakid, yung mga ganun types of formula milk. I can't think of a lot of them on the top of my head. Pero you probably know some of them. Ano yung usually minamarket nilang molecule or nutrient na nandoon sa kanilang baby milk formula? Baby formula. Usually, ang minamarket nila na what do you call this na chemical dito is yung sinasabi nilang DHA. Okay? Which is a type of fatty acid. That is, with enough research done before, was correlated to the mental and the visual development of early stage infants. So, with that in mind, how did they discover this DHA? Believe it or not, this was the result of NASA's research in making sure that their pilots or their astronauts in space, in long-term space flights, have certain types of recycling agents, making sure that they have recycled oxygen, they have recycled resources, probably some compost kung may nagtatanim sila doon ng halaman, and different types of problems that pwede mag-arise in space. They were collaborating with a group of people that were seeing algae. Okay? So these microscopic organisms are being understood as something that could solve this recycling agent problem. And they did find one molecule from a certain species of algae that was able to produce this DHA properly and with ease and with multitudes. And of course, further research led to that being seeing as this was important for early stage development. It now arose as a staple molecule, a staple ingredient for baby formula. So, if you have drank baby formula, kung nakainom na kayo ng baby formula milk, then believe it or not, you have indulged with something that NASA was a little bit responsible of with finding and discovering. Okay? So, yun. That is how baby formula is being used at the moment. And of course, ito, yung last but not the least muna for today. Again, there are many different types of spin-offs, pero I would like to discuss na lang ito yung end natin for now. So, home and recreation, the last one part of this one is freeze-dried food. I have not yet seen one personally, pero I have seen one in videos already. So, whenever you're wondering what freeze-dried food is, it's basically whatever food ang lulutuin mo, they freeze it, and then they remove the ice that has formed from freezing it, and then it retains not only the food itself, but also almost 98% of the nutritional value of that food. All it takes right now to eat that food once more is to apply a little bit of water. This is probably something that is used by by astronauts, okay, to ensure that their food is relatively safe and stored properly. And of course, light, magaan. All they need na lang is water, proper water, and supplied there. Now, for this part, I don't see how this applies to, sabihin niya siguro, I don't see how this applies to everyday life. Believe it or not, this is still useful for certain groups of people that are unable to, well, let's say, produce their food, to access their food properly, or maybe not be able to bring along their food properly, such as, I don't know, siguro mga elderly people or maybe disabled people. And of course, for leisure stuff, if you want to go on a camping trip and you don't want to pack heavy, you want to pack light, you could probably take good advantage of freeze-dried food in order for you to bring along, ito lang yung freeze-dried food niyo, and at the same time, probably bring along a few bottles of water just to ensure na makakain niyo itong food na ito. And again, these types of freeze-dried foods can have different types of applications. More importantly, this arose from the fact that astronauts needed to store and properly put their food somewhere in the space station that they are operating with, or the spacecraft that they're operating with. Again, freeze-dried food is one of its applications. Those are some of the applications that we have been discussing for a while. And believe it or not, let's get a little bit more excited because that's not the end. And that I do not mean that I'm going to be discussing another set of technologies. I'll be showing you later kung saan nyo pwede mahanap yung iba't ibang technologies. But more importantly, think about it right now. Look at the different types of innovations and technologies that NASA has been using solely for space tech. Either for understanding space or for space travel. Isipin nyo mabuti yung iba't ibang technologies that NASA is only using exclusively for space tech right now. Imagine if in the near future, that technology might be used in something that is for commercial use. So always remember that the possible future applications of these different types of technologies are always welcome. Darating at darating itong mga NASA spin-offs na to. They'll keep coming, okay? And they'll be hopefully innovating on a lot of better concepts that were probably found by new technology that is being used right now. So the new technology that is used that we will be using right now and might be using in the near future only for space tech might be landing in your homes in the near future. Okay? So who knows? The sky's the limit in this case. So a lot of different things, a lot of different technologies that we use right now might be available for us to use very, very soon. Okay? And of course, if you want to learn a little bit more about the spin-off over here, I'll copy-paste na lang this one later in the chat. So we have further informations over here. If you want to take a look, yes, NASA has released I'm not sure if it is yearly, but I really recall it is yearly kasi. So they release a yearly article, a group of articles regarding their spin-offs. So they have a website for that one that you can visit. Ito, you can take a look at this one right now. It's spinoff.nasa.gov. I'll probably turn this into white text para makita ninyo. There we go. So yeah, you can probably take a look at that one. So it's spinoff.nasa.gov. You can check out their different technologies in different fields. Or, of course, they have also their directory at the nasa.gov site, okay, for the space tech and spin-off. Now, of course, we have to end a little bit with a little bit of conclusion that you might be thinking on the top of your head right now. You're probably wondering, okay, Sir Eman, these are very useful types of technology. So, what's the lesson here? Ano yung lesson natin ngayon dito sa napag-aralan natin ngayon? What's the underlying thing that we should know about these different types of space technology being used in everyday life? There are 2 points that I want you to remember. And right now, look at me. I want you to promise me that you will remember these things. Okay? Do me a favor and promise me that you will always remember this because this is very important for our understanding in science. Okay? And also communicating in science. I do hope that you are able to remember on this one. Okay. That's it. Oops. Okay. Number 1. First thing that I have to let you remember is this. Space technology is a long-term investment. So to promptly cut off siguro some of those people who might be thinking kung maggastos tayo ng maraming pera sa space technology. We use a lot of money on space technology and only for what? For space. Hindi niya mapapakain yung mga gutom ngayon. It cannot feed the hungry right now. It cannot solve world poverty right now. Remember that those types of problems, while for the most part we should use long-term investments on those types of things, a lot of the things that we usually try to push when it comes to those types of problems are short-term investment problems, or solutions pala rather. Space technology is a type of long-term investment solution. These space technologies are being developed solely for the purpose that we can assure the next generation, the future of humanity, that they may be able to find good use for the type of technology that we are developing right now. It might not feed a lot of people right now, but trust me when I tell you that space technology will benefit the next few generations by a lot. And that leads me to the second point that I want you to remember. Hey, number 1, remember, space tech is a long-term investment. It's not something na pag launch ka agad ng spacecraft, dapat meron na kagad use. Okay? There will be uses for it. Okay? But for the long term. Okay? It's not really something that you will see overnight. It's something that you will see for the long extended periods of time. And I want you to remember that. And of course, the second point will be this one. As we've learned today, space tech is never exclusive just for space. We know that space tech is not exclusive for space-related activities. Tonight, we have learned that space tech is actually very useful in different manners of aspects in life. Ang dami niyang uses from, again, the things that we use in society, from the things that we personally use by ourselves as individuals. Space tech has provided us a lot of different avenues to innovate, to think outside the box, and to ensure that innovation and progress in technology will never stop. And that's something that might make you look forward to every day in life. Whenever you wake up, whenever you look at something, you might want to think again, how can I innovate on that thing? Whether it's something that you're doing right now. I don't know if you're a student or somebody who's working right now. I assume most of you are probably students. If you look at yourself right now, think of the stuff that you're doing currently, and then you ask yourself, how can I innovate on that one? How can I make something that I do or something that I have right now useful for others?
Well, I guess that's about it for this lecture entitled NASA's Spin-Off Everyday Products from NASA by Mr. Emmanuel Dudes Perea from the Bedan Society of Young Astronomers. So we would like to thank Mr. Perea for sharing his time and expertise in our celebration of Global Astronomy Month 2021. Now, if you have any questions or comments or reactions about Mr. Perea's talk, just type in your comments or your questions in our comment section below. Wag po kayong mahiya, and we would be very happy to answer and to respond to all your questions and your reactions. And we would like to thank you mga ka-spacers out there. Marami pong salamat sa pagtutok ninyo po sa aming programang Space, the Final Frontier. And maraming salamat in celebrating Global Astronomy Month 2021 with us. So I guess that's about it. This is your ka-spacer, Professor June Cahigal, saying, live long and prosper. And I will see you in our next episode of Space, the Final Frontier. Always stay safe and goodbye everybody. See you in our next episode.
There she is, NASA's Voyager 1. Launched in 1977.
But that's just very small potatoes compared to what the Earth is involved with and knows about.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
To go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone.